Welcome back to Comics Are Dope, the podcast. I'm your host, BJ Kicks, and this one is fun. They're always fun. But today I'm having a conversation with comic book artist and writer Will Robson. Will Robson is the writer behind OUTBREAKS, which is a zombie anthology book. Issues 1 and 2 have already funded. They're out. Issue 3 is on Kickstarter right now, so you can actually do the whole catch-up pack. You can get issue 1, 2, and 3. But this book, which we're talking about almost exclusively today, it's a zombie anthology, and so I'm gonna let Will talk about it more because we get to it in our conversation. But I should just tell you, I read issues 1 and 2, and this book is really good. Now, the zombies are like the only exception to my no horror rule. So maybe I'm just a little bit more giddy than usual about the book, but it's really good. And I like that it's not just how are we going to survive the zombie apocalypse. It's like, it's an anthology set in a zombie apocalypse. So there's a lot of different ways the zombies show up that I think are unique to this book. So anyway, Outbreak, issues 1, 2, and 3 available on Kickstarter right now. I think the campaign ends on May 15th. So definitely check it out as soon as you can. Links are in the show notes down below. But now I'll present to you my conversation with Will Robson so he can tell you more about it. Well, guys, my next guest is a writer and artist. You've seen him on things like the Great Lakes Avengers and Spider-Man and Deadpool. And he's here to promote his newest Kickstarter project for Outbreaks issue number 3. Please welcome artist and writer Will Robson. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, man. I'm excited to have you here. So thanks for doing this.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm more than happy to hop on board and chat away about comics and other silly things that we love in the world of comics.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, all the things we love are silly, which I think makes it more fun, right? Like the older I get, the more people I meet that are into comics, it's like the love is deep because it's like the longer you stick with it, it's like there's a reason for that. So with all that said, what got you into comics? What made you love it?
What really got me into comics was the animated series that were on during the 90s. Like, if it wasn't for Batman the animated series, Spider-Man the animated series, X-Men the animated series, I don't know if I would have been super exposed to Marvel, because growing up in England, I wasn't really around anywhere to get comic books. It wasn't until I moved to America when I was about 7 that I started properly reading comic books, and I fell in love with Todd McFarlane and John Romita Jr., and I was picking up all their stuff. And then that was the time when like the Marvel Legends line began, where they used to have the comic book in the back of the toy.
Mm-hmm.
So I used to buy the toy, and then I would love the comic. And yeah, that's how I fell in love with comics. And then I remember reading The Long Halloween. It was like the first comic I actually sat down and read besides looking at the pretty pictures.
Right.
And I remember running to like my parents being like, you should read this. This is like good. Like, it's not just a comic. Like, this is like really good stuff. You need to check this out. So I was hooked ever since then.
So were your parents comic fans as well, or they just kind of got into it because you were into it?
No, they're not comic fans now. I mean, my dad's very supportive of what I do. My mom sadly passed away, but she was very supportive of what I did as well. Not comic people at all. They might watch the occasional movie. My dad is all right with Batman, but he hates Spider-Man, and I have no idea why. He always makes fun of Spider-Man. He calls him little weedy Spidey. So what can you do?
I mean, I guess if you have the wrong perspective, I guess I'll call it the wrong perspective, right? You can see Spider-Man as being weak, right? Especially some of the situations he gets put in. You know, it's not always looking good for my man Peter Parker.
No, I think he's all about the cool factor, though. I think my dad thinks Batman's cool and Spider-Man's lame, but what can you do? I love them both.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a huge Batman fan, and Batman the Animated Series was also my gateway into all things comics. So yeah, I'm right there with him. But if I got to pick a hero to pick on, it's probably Superman before Spidey.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that too. I used to be in the camp of like, Superman's lame. I hate Superman, but
Mhm.
I've changed over the years. Like, I dig Superman now, and I love the idea of like he has all the chances in the world to be a terrible person, but he chooses to be a good one. Like that's a great thing about that character.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's funny. I've been a recent Superman convert, right? Not to the point where it's overtaken Batman for me, but when a Superman story is really well done, like it's like the best of the genre, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, I like Superman Red Sun. I really liked that story. I thought it had a great twist ending to it as well. That was a fun one.
I think my favorite, still my favorite, probably is Superman for All Seasons.
Yeah, that's classic.
I love it. Um, so you are kickstarting this book called Outbreak. It's a zombie anthology book. Why zombies?
I'm a huge zombie fan. It's like my favorite subgenre of anything. I've loved zombies since I was remember playing hide and seek as a kid, and MTV was on in the background, and suddenly the Thriller music video came on,
Mhm.
and I remember just stopping playing. I was the seeker. I remember stopping playing and just watching it and being terrified as all the zombies came out of the grave. And like, yes, they did a little boogie and a dance, and that wasn't the scariest bit, but it's the end of that music video when she runs into the house and all the zombies break in and they go towards her and reach for her.
Mhm.
Scared the crap out of me as a kid, and it stuck with me. And then what came out was Resident Evil on PlayStation 1. And I used to watch a good friend of mine, Jared, I used to watch him play all the games and I was obsessed with them. But he's like, do you want to play? And I was like, no, 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 no. Too scared to like face a zombie in one of those games. But I just became obsessed with the genre. And then as a teen, I properly got into George A. Romero, and I went down the like history rabbit hole of zombies. Day of the Dead's my favorite zombie movie of all time, and I'm actually
Mhm.
seeing it in theaters next month. For some random reason, they're putting this like 45-year-old movie back into movie theaters, and I can't wait to see it. But yeah, I love zombies. I know it's so funny though, because the zombies had a huge peak, right? Like when The
Mhm.
Walking Dead was at the top of its television, and then even Game of Thrones had zombies in it. We were chucked full of zombie content, and me as a zombie fan, I was happy. And it annoys me because some people are like, "Oh, you're making a zombie book? Like, what are you like chasing an old trend?" I'm like, "No, this is like me to my core. Like, I
Right.
love zombies. I'm not chasing no trend. I know that's not how I operate. So I just love them, and I've always wanted to tell different zombie stories. Like The Walking Dead did such a good job at telling the ultimate zombie survival story
Mhm.
that it's you can't really do that anymore, nor should it be, because that's all zombie content is nowadays, is people just trying to survive in the zombie apocalypse. But I always thought there was more to it. I like taking the zombie genre and flipping on its head a bit. And that's why in my book we have a zombie superhero story, which is
Mhm.
kind of like a noir crime thriller, which is our backup story, Deadeye Dick, where I kind of wanted to be like, what if there's a character that's kind of like Daredevil, but his superpowers aren't because he's deaf or blind, it's because he has a zombie eyeball in his head that's giving him superpowers.
Mhm.
And then I have a dark comedy as my main story, which is Rotten Luck, which is about two guys locked in a drunk tank at the beginning of the zombie apocalypse. And they got to figure out how to get out of the jail cell. They're going to be left for dead. That's more your standard zombie story, but it's still like, it's going to be like a dark comedy. It's a bit of fun. And then in the future, we've got like a zombie courtroom drama. We got a story where the zombies are like, have taken over the world and they've gained like all of their like thoughts back and things. They think that they're like, oh, there's a reason why we came back to life. And anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself here, because the plan is like, I want to make it to 50 issues on this. I want it to be a
Mhm.
big fat compendium that I can look back on and say I did that. So yeah, if you like zombies, then you're gonna love this. And if you don't, then I don't know what to tell you. It's still fun though.
So you said something earlier, the way you put it, you said the zombie genre. And it's funny because my audience knows, right? Like there's two things I stay away from in comics pretty much one is sex and the other is like horror.
Okay.
Specifically, I don't do supernatural horror. The one like thing of what I'd call horror that I've made an exception for in the past is zombie books, right? So Deceased funny enough, was my gateway into the DC universe when I started picking up comics.
Nice.
Um, right now, The Walking Dead Deluxe is probably the longest running series in my pull list because it's the only way to get The Walking Dead in color.
Mm.
But for whatever reason, like zombie books have always like been cool for me, but I've never thought of them as a genre outside of horror. What would you say are like the key defining factors of the zombie genre?
If it's just the zombies in general, it usually just means that the undead have come back to life and they want to eat humans, which is something that George A. Romero created with Night of the Living Dead. Because before that, zombies were, they were victims of voodoo magic. Like they didn't eat people; they were just people risen more as like people to do any task that you want them to do, and all that type of stuff. It wasn't until Romero that they really became flesh eaters, and that's like the big shtick. I think a lot of people make zombie content because it's easy for an audience to like, they know the rules, right? You don't have to do much world building. You can just say, I got this character. Oh no, it's the zombie apocalypse. How are they going to face that? And that's where I think you get a lot of subpar content because you're not really, you're missing the point there, right? Like you look at Shaun of the Dead, right? It's a rom-com first and a zombie story second. And you even look at Dawn of the Dead, and it's a huge like political look on what's it called, capitalist greed and all this stuff. Like you need layers to it to make it interesting, because I think a lot of people miss the trick and just think it's about people surviving in the zombie apocalypse. That was the story of The Walking Dead, but they did it so well. It's hard to replicate. So that's what I would say is you got to have your zombies. They got to be eating people. I'm a big fan of slow moving zombies. I don't like fast moving zombies. If I was in that world and there was fast moving zombies, I would just stand outside and put my hands out and wait for one of them to kill me, because there's no point even trying to survive that. But I like the slow moving zombie because they trick you into thinking that you can handle them, right? One zombie, you could probably handle it. Anybody probably could get like a broomstick and shove it in an eye socket, and you might live.
Right.
But they're kind of like, once they get into groups and there's hundreds of them, that's when they get really dangerous. So it's just that impending doom to be ripped apart that really scares me to my core, that makes me obsessed with the genre. But I've always been obsessed with anything that scared me. Like I saw a double feature as a kid of Jaws and The Exorcist when I was way too young, and it cemented my fear of sharks being eaten alive and ghosts and demons and all that stuff. But that's the type of content that I love now, because I love things that scare me, because being scared over something as silly as a fictional like creature like a zombie is like, it's dumb. I like, why should I fear that? It's not gonna happen. It's not outside my door, but yet it controls so much of my fear, and I find that super duper interesting.
You just unlocked a core memory for me. I remember being like, couldn't have been any more than 5. And we went to Universal Studios in Florida, and they had the Jaws ride.
Yeah.
And it scared me to death. Like I
Me
like
too.
was terrified to the point they stopped the ride and like let me off it. That's how bad it was.
Really? No, I went on the same ride as a kid, Universal Studios in Florida, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yep. And I remember I was sitting on the side, and I was on the side when the shark pops up and like goes at the boat. And I didn't actually, but I was close to pooping my pants when I saw that. That's for sure. I love that ride. That ride doesn't exist anymore, sadly.
Really?
No, it's been. I think it's the Harry Potter world now there, or something like that. Yeah, it's a shame because it was a good one, and I remember like specifically the guy hosting it had like a shotgun.
Has a gun, and he's like shooting at the thing, right?
And one of my favorite bits on that ride is you go into like a boathouse that's all dark, and the guy's like, "Okay, I think we're safe here." And then he shines a light at the water, and you just see like the fin pop up and go back down. That's just great stuff. I love it so much.
Man. So I guess while we're on this subject, what are some of your favorite sort of scary movies?
So I love scary movies, and I guess you could say I'm a little bit of a late bloomer to it because I've always watched zombie movies, but I've always had like a deep fear of ghosts and demon movies. I always found them as a kid to be way too scary, and I sort of had a Phoenix moment where I went through a trial of by fire while watching Haunting of Hill House when that first came out, because
Mm,
I found that show to be so scary that after it, nothing that I watch is scary anymore in comparison to the first time seeing that. And now I'm obsessed with it. So I love horror movies. You know, classics like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. What a masterpiece! I love all the slashes. Um, I love like the silly things like with Chucky and but like there's a lot of good modern horror out there as well. Like I don't know if you saw, I think it's called The Black Phone. Did you ever? I think that's what it's called.
I
That
did
was a new
not.
one where like there was this guy who was like a serial killer killing kids,
Mm,
and this kid gets kidnapped, and he has to. The ghosts of the kids like help him escape the serial killer that's trapped him. Really great stuff. And I just think the fun thing about horror is there's always a new unique horror out there, right? Like
mm.
we get a lot of this, you know, superhero movie is cut and paste right now. Um, and with the horror, it's not the same. There's always some sort of little edge or little twist that makes it really interesting. So I love it. And you know, it's something for like a bonding experience for me and my wife. It's great to sit down and like watch
Mm.
a horror movie together.
Got you. Got you. Yeah. I recently had a conversation with Lamar Giles, and he is a children's book writer. He recently did like a graphic novel featuring Static or Static Shock, but he does like he's written like horror novels, and I was asking him, why horror as a genre, and he says like, often you can, one thing is like kind of playing with fear and like, maybe the way that you handle the fear that comes from a horror movie might help you with like your real life fears or seeing that certain things are silly, right? But then the other part was that maybe you're opening conversations or commenting on things that would just be too overt or too political in any other genre choice, because then you'd have to just kind of come out and say whatever the thing is. Do you find that as well?
Absolutely. I mean, a great example of that is Get Out, right? Like
Mm,
that subject matter doesn't really work that great in other contexts. It's that film's a masterpiece in itself. I 100% agree with that. I mean, horror is just it's funny, like if you look at the history of comics, the horror was king at one point.
mm,
EC Comics, like they were producing the best. All of Marvel had their own like horror line, and DC, like everyone was trying to catch up to the popularity of EC Comics. It wasn't until a bunch of like conservative moms got together and said, "Oh, this is like rotting our children's brains
mm.
and causing kids to become killers," that it all went away. But I'm seeing it come back now, and I love it. Like it's like horror is such a huge what's the right word I'm thinking for? Like you look at there's comic conventions, right? But
Hmm.
there's also horror conventions, and
Yeah.
like there's horror movies and there's horror games. Like it's such a popular world, and the people that like horror are so passionate about it, just as
Hmm.
much as like a comic book fan. So when you get that crossover where it's like horror comics, that's like the best.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And so outbreaks, where did the idea for outbreaks come from?
So Outbreaks came from me. I was working at Marvel, and I just finished. I was in the middle of drawing Great Lakes Avengers, which was my first series at Marvel. And as I was drawing, I was like, yeah, this is great. And I'm really happy to be working in the comic industry, but I want to write my own stuff because
Mm,
I went to film school because I wanted to write and direct. Like I loved people like Robert Rodriguez, Quentin Tarantino, Alfred Hitchcock. Like I just wanted to be in the director's chair and control the story. And it wasn't until I was at university that I re fell in love back again with comics when I walked into my local comic book store and saw that Batman New 52 was out. And I saw that amazing Greg Capullo art that I went, I want to do this. Like what this
mm,
guy's doing, this is what I want to do. So I guess I got distracted by how gorgeous like comic book art was and my love for it that I forgot that like, no, you don't want to just draw other people's stories. You want to create your own. So I wanted to make a plan for a book that I could do where I wouldn't have to draw it because I'm so busy working at Marvel and DC, etc. as my day job. So I was like, okay, well, you got this little zombie story idea. So just do like if you do 3 issues of a story, then you can call it quits. But as it went on, I went, wait, hang on, like there's something here. Like you can tell more than just one zombie story, that you have a million zombie story ideas. Well, why not make an anthology series in the tale, like in the vein of Tales of the from the Crypt,
Mm,
and play with a host and like have a lot of fun with it. And that's where Outbreaks turn into just like a short little zombie story into this fun, huge thing where basically I have a character called Demetra Z, who is the host of the book, and he's like your
mm,
crypt keeper. And he runs a movie theater in the zombie apocalypse. It makes no sense, but that's what he does. And all of his like customers are zombies, and they
mm.
all come in and they sit down and they watch the movie, and the movie is the comic. And it's just something that I found to be a lot of fun, and a lot of people responded really well to the character of the Maitre Z. And yeah, it's the biggest word I can think of is it's just fun. Like, I'm having so much fun putting this book together. And like, not just the book, but I created a whole trading card game connected to the book that's like Pokemon and Hearthstone combined, and I just having fun. And like, I'm making this book for me as the ultimate zombie fan. Like, what would I want? And if other people dig it, that's great. But as selfish as it sounds, I'm trying to entertain myself as much as possible at the end of the day.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. No, I do love the Matrix Z character as
Thank
well,
you.
right? Like, and then when I saw him, I was like, oh, this is like the Crypt Keeper, dude. Like,
Yeah.
that was really cool. And I think it works. Like, I had a conversation with Matt Mare Lowry, who also is kickstarting an anthology series, but his is a sci-fi
Mhm.
anthology. And his sort of world framing device is that like there's like, the big evil corporation, and it's like you maybe came in, or you're like during orientation for this company. And so as you get into the different stories, it's kind of like trading sequences for your onboarding into this company. But I think it's really cool to have these framing devices in an anthology, right? Whereas even like in the big two anthologies, right, they're often just like sort of breakneck switches in tone. It's just like, all right, one story is over, now here's another story. And you kind of you lose something by not being sort of guided through the book. So I think that is an awesome idea.
I agree 100% with that. But one of the big things I wanted to do was, as much as I love anthology series of all
Mm,
types, but I always feel like I'm left wanting more, because a lot of anthology series, they just tell really short stories, like an 8 pager, a 5 pager,
mm,
a 10 pager. And that's not what I'm doing with Outbreaks. I'm telling short stories, but over a long period. So,
mm,
for instance, my first story, Rotten Luck, is a 3 issue story. It's 60 pages long. The next story I'm going to do is potentially going to be 6 or 7 issues long. And depending on what I feel like writing, it's going to change in size. But then I also have an ongoing story in the back, because I like the long term storytelling. I like to take time for people to get invested into the world and into the characters. And I don't see many people doing that. And I think it's a fun thing to do. I mean, you look at a show like Black Mirror, that their run times go from anywhere from 60 minutes to a whole freaking movie in length. And
right.
I like that. I like getting a full story that is connected all through a similar vein.
Got you. Yeah. So Outbreaks 1 and 2 have Rotten Luck and Deadeye Dick in them. Um, what's going to be in issue 3?
Issue 3 is going to conclude Rotten Luck. It's the final part of that story. So you get to see what happens to Jimmy and Coach, and how they escape, or if they do escape, the jail cell that they've been trapped in during the zombie apocalypse.
Mm,
And then Deadeye Dick was just an ongoing, so it's going to be the backup story to every issue. I have all these kooky, weird plans for it, and that book's crazy as well, because I'm coloring it like it's
mm.
the 1950s, where
Yeah, there's a lot of like screen tones in it.
yeah, it's actually even it's not screen tones. It's I'm coloring it the old school way of, there's only like 4 colors,
Hmm.
C, M, Y, and K, and I'm layering them to create the colors. It's a thing called craft toning, or and I think you
Mm,
can, if people are interested, you can look it up. It's actually quite a tedious process to, like, you don't just like drop in like a bunch of dots and it looks cool. It takes a long time to do like the layering. It's old school, but it is such a cool process,
mm.
and I think the end result is really cool as well.
Nice, nice. And is that a process you're able to do digitally, or are you like
Yeah.
hand maneuvering this stuff?
Yeah, so I do most of my work digitally. I do some traditional inking, like I do most of it on the computer, and then I'll print some stuff out and I'll finish it off with inks if I feel like I want to either try and sell the piece or if I think the piece is worth selling.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, I'm pretty much 100% digital.
Got you. And then what are your tools of choice? Are you on an iPad or yeah, like a Cintiq?
I used to be a Cintiq guy, and then when they came out with the iPad Pro in like 2017 or something,
Mm-hmm.
I bought one and I haven't looked back. I used to have a studio and like an office space with a Cintiq and everything, and now I've been using the iPad. I literally just sit in my living room with my dog in my lap, and I put my knee up and I work like just on the iPad. But I love working on the iPad because I can work anywhere on a plane or wherever I am in the world. It's great.
That's awesome. No, I've recently gotten into just reading digital comics on the iPad, and the portability is second to none. Like I've got all these hardcovers, I've got all my single issues every week. I go to the shop still, but like being able to just have it on the iPad, I'm not worried about my 3 year old crumpling the iPad up, like, and it goes anywhere. It's awesome.
Yeah, I like to do all of it. I've got my trades, I've got my hardbacks, I've got my singles that I collect, and I've got a bunch of digital comics because I use a lot of the comics as reference on my iPad. So if I feel like, how would Greg Capullo, how does he draw like buildings again in Spawn? Because that's what I'm kind of going for with this image. Or let me just look on my iPad and I've got like the whole collection there. It's great.
So speaking of just like process, you've been pretty open about sharing your career process online. You've got a YouTube channel with a pretty good following, but you've got this series about how you got into Marvel. Like there's one where you show off your portfolio. There's another where you recap your sort of portfolio review. What was your journey into comics like, and why have you felt the need to sort of share it with the general public?
I I like to share like the what I'm working on and what I'm doing because I like those type of videos. I like seeing behind the curtain how things work, and I really appreciate when people share that stuff because it's such a tool to learn and to get better and to see if potentially I can do what someone else is doing. And I like to teach as well. Like I have a Patreon where members of it that are members of my Discord are artists from a different range of like it's day one and they're trying to learn how to draw comics to they're basically ready to break into the industry. And I love like helping people like get their art in front of the right people and working on their craft and getting it as good as possible. I guess I have like the teacher's bug in me. That's like the only thing I can say. I know some people are like that, some people are not. I do love helping people because I know that every time someone helped me when I was trying to break in, it was amazing. Like I remember getting a portfolio review from Arthur Adams at a convention and Brian Boland, and like Ryan Stegman, all these people that really helped like open my eyes. Like, okay, I need to work on this, this, and this, and it really helped me break in. Which I'm very happy to help people do that. And yeah, YouTube's just a bit of fun. Like I used to be way more active on it before I broke into comics, and I watch a lot of YouTube. Like I'd say the majority of content that I consume on a daily basis is watching other people on YouTube. So I just like to be a part of it.
Yeah, no, YouTube is an awesome space. I was on YouTube about 4 or 5 years before I ever started a comic channel. And when I started this channel, it was supposed to be just because my main channel is a channel where I teach musicians how to market their music. Um, and when I started this channel, it was supposed to be like kind of as a break from that, like, oh, well, I'll do like the super polished videos over there, and this will just be the hobby channel. And then it was supposed to be like like me reading comics and then doing like beat making and stuff. And it just kind of turned into the world shut down. We were in the middle of a pandemic, and I just kept buying more comics. And so first it was a bunch of haul videos, like, oh, look what comics I got in this month or this week or whatever. And now it's just like, okay, I want to be able to contribute to this as much as I feel like it contributes to the joy I feel in my life, right? So
Mhm.
having these conversations, being able to help other people share their stories, connecting readers with stories they may not know about, like that's fun for me. But I think what makes YouTube so awesome is the community aspect of it all, right? Like Because I mean, if I wanted to just make artsy videos, just throw them online, there's Vimeo for that, right?
Mm,
Like, and it would look good. But something about the immediacy of the feedback and the community
yeah.
that grows in the comment sections and things like that. Like, I really, really love it. And I hope YouTube goes nowhere anytime
Yeah.
soon.
It's also just, it's so funny. Like, I thought that when I broke into Marvel and DC, that like, oh, I don't have to worry about social media anymore and like getting people to buy my stuff because I've made it now, and it's so not true at all. Like it's crazy. And YouTube is such a great place to build an audience and a fan base that will be loyal to following your work and supporting your work, which is super duper important. You said you did music. I'm a musician myself. So what do you play then?
So I don't play. I used to be a beat maker, right?
Oh,
So
nice.
sampling records and making like hip hop beats, lo-fi beats and stuff like that. Um, Early on, like 2011, I got an internship at a label. So like I was working for Ninth Wonder. He's got an artist, Rhapsody, who's signed to Jay-Z's label now.
Nice.
Um, but so really early on, I got involved in like the business side. And so when I'm traveling around to these festivals and things, or they were conferences back then, now they call them festivals. But when I was traveling around, I'm seeing all these artists who are like, they're really good at what they do, but for whatever reason, there's not an audience there to support them.
Yeah.
And so because my degree was in marketing, I was like, all right, well, what can I do to help people learn these principles so that there is an audience waiting on the other side of their creativity? So I started focusing on the business, like I said, about 2011, and haven't really had a ton of time like to keep making beats and stuff. Um, Especially now that comics and children have taken over my life.
I understand that. It's so funny. Like I never paid any attention to marketing. I just
Mm,
was so focused on the creative. And as I said, like I thought the moment I became a professional artist, it would become a lot easier to I wouldn't have to market, but it's so untrue. Like you have to the sad thing in this world is that you have to be good at everything now. You have to be good at writing, good at drawing. You can put the whole book together, color, letter, production, pre-production, post-production, and marketing and advertising, like all of it. Like,
right.
but I do have a bit of an entrepreneurial like mentality
Hmm.
because like my personal hero in this whole world is Todd McFarlane, and
Hmm.
I love watching that dude speak, and I love when he like just says like the like anytime you hear him talk, it's so super motivational about like take the reins of your own like creative work and like make something of it. It's like you're the only person that's stopping you from making like your dreams come true. And I'm like, yeah, hell yeah. Like I love listening
Right.
to that stuff. And marketing is something that I've now starting to pay a bit more attention to. I'm not the best at it, but I'm
Mhm.
learning. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think Todd McFarlane is such a great poster child of that, right? Because
Yeah.
like his superlative of choice is cool. And
Yeah.
that's really what marketing is, right? Making something look cool, attractive, enticing, but also keeping your finger on the pulse so that you know what's cool or attractive to whatever your segment is that you're trying to reach. So yeah, no, Todd McFarlane is the GOAT
He is
as
the
far as
goat.
that's concerned, in my opinion.
I
But
100% agree.
so you've been really forthcoming with your journey. You're on YouTube, but you said something that kind of stuck out to me, right? Like the seeds for this project started while you are on your first professional work,
Yeah.
right? What would you say are the big differences between working for Marvel and DC and then working on a passion project like this?
Um, I would say that there's corporate comics and then there's indie comics, and there's such a different world. When you work for a mega corporation, there's a lot of like if let's say you're trying to write something for them, right? There's so many knows because like this character's doing this in this universe there and this person's doing this. We don't think that the story is going to be marketable or in this space. We actually have another story that's similar to this, so we don't want to push this right now. Oh wait, no, we heard that DC's doing this thing that's like this, so we don't want to do this. There's so much like the preemptive, like, oh, I don't want to mess anything up, that it's really hard sometimes to be as creative as possible
Mm,
because there's so the reins are tight, right? Like it's like you can't And I'm not saying it's like that all the time, but it's very much like that. And then also the worst part about working as a professional comic book artist is deadlines. My
Yeah.
God, those monthly deadlines, like people don't realize how hard, like how many hours people put into drawing comics. Like people have literally worked themselves to death in this industry, which is such a
Mm.
shame because people just, there's a lot of taking advantage of expecting these huge things, and that's why, like, I think comic book writers really need to pay attention to their scripts and realize that on the other end, there's a person that needs to draw this, and they got to draw it in a month. So
Mm.
if your whole book's crowd scenes with a bunch of superheroes because you think it's cool, maybe do one page here or there where it's just like a character, single face, no background or something like that, because it just takes a lot out of you. Like I spent the first 3 years of my career working all day, every day, because I wanted to build up and get on the Marvel books that I really wanted to work on, like Spider-Man and Deadpool, and eventually work with Tom McFarlane, which was a dream come true.
Hmm.
But I got so burnt out doing it. And it was just like, to be honest, like when the pandemic came, for me mentally, it was great because I finally was given an excuse to
Mm.
take a breather. And I really like that's when the pandemic hit. That's when I said to myself, like, okay, what Marvel has shut its doors, so you can't work. What do you want to do with your future? Do you want to keep just drawing other people's stories, or do you want to finally take the reins and create your own stuff? And that's when I decided to actually launch my first Kickstarter. It was in 2019. I was like, I'm gonna do this, and I spent a couple of years learning how to do it, learning what you need to do. Shout out to the Comics Tribe, Comics Launch podcast. If
Mm.
any of you guys want to learn how to make Kickstarters and successful Kickstarters, just listen to Comics Launch podcast with Tyler James. The dude is a master, and he gives nothing but insightful, helpful tips on how to do it. Without that podcast, there's no way I would have had a successful campaign. So I really respect and love that show. Yeah, I feel like I went on a tangent there. I forgot what else the point I was trying to make. Oh, yeah. So the corporate comics, it's like I right now, like I am still working full time for Marvel and DC, and
Mhm.
I love doing what I do. I've been able to draw Batman, Spider-Man, these characters I grew up with that I loved. It's great, but that to me, there's nothing like being in control of your own story and doing like fun little things. Like for instance, today I've been putting together a version, like a little story for Outbreaks for Free Comic Book Day,
Mhm.
because I'm going to be in Dubai. For Free Comic Book Day at a comic book store. And since I own a property, like they said, like, hey, why don't we do a Free Comic Book Day version of Outbreaks? And I'm like, great, that sounds like fun. And it's that type of stuff that I love, that like I could just say yes to stuff and put stuff
Mhm.
together
Yeah.
without anybody saying, maybe we shouldn't do that because this, that, and the other, and all that stuff. Like I can do anything I want. And that's why for issue 3, I hired the personal art hero of mine, the co-creator of The Walking Dead himself, Tony Moore.
Mhm.
This guy co-created Rick freaking Grimes to be the cover artist on my book. And I guarantee you, if Outbreaks was at a publisher and I said, hey, why don't we get Tony Moore on the cover? They would have said, oh, we can't afford him. We can't do that. But since my Kickstarter got overfunded for the second campaign, I had the money for it. So I said, let's do it. Because as I said, I'm a fan. So to like have the guy who was drawing the book that I grew up on, when like I started reading Walking Dead in 2005 when I was 15. So like to go back to my 15-year-old self and say, hey, this guy that you love, he's going to be freaking on your zombie book one day. That's what like that's creativity, right? Like that's passion. Like the comic industry is so good at making you like start to hate comics in a way. Like it just grinds you down sometimes. That doing Outbreaks is such a great reminder of why I've dedicated my whole career to making comics, because I'm just having a blast. I love it. I love making my own comics, and I'm going to continue to do it. Like after Outbreaks, I'm launching another series of mine called Mobster Mash, which is basically a 1950s mobster story about all the classic Universal Hollywood horror monsters as mobsters, all in a turf war over Tinseltown. It's a really, really fun story that so many companies have passed on. And I'm just sick of like waiting for someone to vindicate my stories so that
Mm,
it can be in a comic book store. Like, why am I doing that? I should just be creating it myself. So that's why I'm doing it. And I'm really passionate about getting all of my books out there in the world. And thank you, everybody that has supported me so far on this journey into indie comics. I cannot do it without you.
man, that is awesome. You touched on something just a second ago, just talking about corporate comics, right? You touched on comic scripts, and not to date this podcast, but that seems to be a very popular subject on Twitter right now. Is like wordy scripts versus not wordy scripts and
Mm.
whatnot. What's your take on it? Like, what's the perfect script coming to you?
Well, I've had scripts that are just way too detailed, which is it's almost insulting because as a comic book artist, don't tell me what type of shot it's supposed to be, the angle and stuff like that.
Mm,
I'm the director. I'm the one doing the creative decisions, right?
mm,
That's why when I write scripts for the people I work with on Outbreaks, I keep it super open in terms of shot selection, unless there's something I'm like, hey, this is narratively important to lay out
mm,
the shots this way. Um, I hate that stuff. But at the same time, when I work with Todd McFarlane, it was shocking because he is old school Marvel method where he just has like, okay, bud, on this page, like I need them to talk this way and they can do whatever you want, and then by the end of the book they need to be like in a hospital. Okay, go for it. And you're like, what? Okay, like it's like almost too open. So
mm,
I like a happy in between. Like when I write my scripts, I write all the dialogue first and the characters talking because that's the most important thing is to make sure that the story flows and it's good and it's interesting. And then I go back and I break it all up and I just make sure like, hey, whatever location we're in, we need an establishing shot and this, that, and the other. But I love to leave it open because it's so surprising when you see someone come back to you where you have like an idea for something. It's never the way you expected it. It's always better. But yeah,
mm.
definitely don't like wordy scripts. That's for sure.
Got you. I'm trying to find like just the good analogy for the relationship, right? I guess the best I can come up with is there's a screenwriter, there's a cinematographer. And I guess like in this analogy, maybe your editor is the director of the film, but I don't know if that's giving them too much credit, but I don't know. It's interesting because I feel like there does seem to be a battle, at the very least in the fans' minds, between like the writer and the artist, like who does
Yeah.
what, who should get what credit. And I don't know. I think for what it's worth, like it's a comic. Whoever made the comic gets the credit because you can't
Yeah.
do one without the other.
I agree. It's such a interesting look because yeah, the writer has created the entire world,
Mm,
everything about it, the story. It's super duper important, but like they're the writer. Like, if it is a film thing, they're the writer, and I would say that they're the showrunner as well, right? That's how I would
mm,
say it. They're the showrunner and writer, but then the artist is the director, cinematographer, lighting, like everything else that goes into production. It's
mm,
all just one job. So it's super important. And it drives me nuts when you see like people like I've read so many reviews for comics I've drawn, they don't mention my art once. And I'm like, why am I doing this job? Like, am I just
mm,
like, because like if we're gonna be freaking replaced by AI one day, I won't be surprised because it seems like no one really cares about comic book art anymore. It's
mm.
all about the writer. But you take away the art from like a comic book is art first. Like
Right.
it's you flip through it because it's pretty pictures of drawings. Like the whole point of the medium is that it's a visual medium. So that's like the most important part of a comic, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I can read a story. I can read an okay story with great art, right? I can probably read a story with okay art with a great story, but it's usually the other way around. Like good art will get me through a bad story, right?
Right.
Bad art won't get me through a good story. It,
I'll play devil's advocate to that, where I've seen both. I've seen stories that are so poorly drawn but incredibly well written that I'm really interested in the world,
mm,
and I've seen the complete opposite where it depends. Like since I'm a fan of comic book art, like I like there's certain books I look at just for the art, like so and I love them for what they are because I can study them. I'm like, this art's great. And like I've looked at these books for 20 plus years, but I've never read them because I can tell it's not a very good story, you know? But it just depends on what you're looking for. Like comics used to be mainly for kids. And, I liked comics as a kid because it was big, impactful 90s art, and I wanted to see it. And now
Mm,
comics are for adults, and most people that read comics are of a certain age. So, of course, the story is king. Of course, the writer is king. But, without comic book artists, then it would just be books. Like, and anybody can read a book.
for sure. So, we're recording this pre-launch, but the Kickstarter for Outbreaks issue 3 starts April 15th. What are some of the things you can get your hands on through this campaign?
So you can get all issues 1 through 3 if you want to read the entire thing, or you can just pick up the Tony Moore cover if you're a Tony Moore fan. It will be a bit late now because on the pre-launch day, April 15th, there is a day one backer bonus where you get a Tony Moore trading card that's exclusive to the campaign, a bookmark, and a signed Tony Moore print that's signed by me.
Mm,
So sorry if you missed that, but that's why you should always be signed up to make sure you know when I'm launching my next campaign. And you can do that by going to my website, speechcomics.com, sign up to my newsletter. I don't send newsletters unless I'm launching a project, and I only send a newsletter once
mm,
because I hate spam mail. I don't want to hear how your day was, how you walked your dog and you played with your kid in the park. That
right.
has nothing to do with me supporting you as a comic book creator. So I literally only do, I say, hey, my book's launching, it's here. Yeah, so but there's plenty of stuff. Like I said, there's the whole trading card game. I've made booster packs that look like old, the Pokemon booster packs, or like you can
Uh-huh.
still get them today, or 10 collectible trading cards inside. I've become obsessed with like all like the merch stuff of it. You can
Mm,
get the my character, the Maitre Z. He has a little emoji pin on, which the emoji is like the logo of my social media and all of Outbreaks. You can get that pin itself with
mm,
this book, and loads of other things, lots of fun variant covers. I did an homage cover to The Walking Dead 1 because Tony Moore's on the book. And this, that, and the other. There's lots of fun. And if you're an art collector, you can, at the highest pledge, get some original art from the book from me. And I'm also doing commissions as well. So if you want me to draw a certain character as a zombie, I can do that. Like I just fulfilled the last campaign and I drew BoJack Horseman as a zombie. So that's the type of fun stuff that I get to do.
nice, nice. And I know you said you want this to go on forever so we can have a big Outbreaks compendium. What's the cadence on these campaigns? How often do you plan on putting them out?
I put them out when I've fulfilled a book, which roughly takes me anywhere from 5 to 7 months. I'm a bit slow now because, look, if I got to a point where I was getting overfunded, then I would stop working for Marvel DC and I would focus on it full time. But
Mm,
even though we got overfunded last time, I didn't want to just take the money and be like, all right, I'm going to finally pay myself because I don't make this book is operating at a loss. I don't make money off of it.
mm,
Everything I do in the book, I do for free. I do coloring, lettering, drawing, all that stuff. It's a pure passion project. And even though we made money last time that was extra, I went, nope, put it right back in the book. Let's get Tony Moore in. And that's what I want to keep doing. Like my high in the sky dream is to have people like Arthur Adams on the book doing a cover, Brian Boland on the book doing cover, a J. Scott Campbell variant. Like I just want it to be a celebration of like everybody that I love in this industry. And I just want to look back on it as like my passion project, right? Like
yeah,
I love long-term storytelling. Akira Toriyama with Dragon Ball Z,
yeah.
what an accomplishment. Robert Kirkman with The Walking Dead and his huge hit now, Invincible, what an
Mm,
accomplishment. Stan Lee, all these people like uh, Jack Kirby. Like I want something like that, like a legacy to look back on. And I love zombies so much that it just has to be zombies.
yeah, for sure. No, man, this issues 1 and 2, I got to read digitally and they are great. So I plan on
Thank you.
backing the campaign to get them physically. And of course, I'm getting that Tony Moore cover. I have to. So,
That's right.
so I'm excited about it. And I think the audience will be as well. But just one more time, can you shout out just where they can go to learn more from you and get signed up for these goodies?
Absolutely. So you can find me on social media anywhere at Robson Inc. And that's ROBSON, which is my last name with INK at the end, like inking.
Mm,
So that's my social media handle on all platforms. You can find me on YouTube, where you can sort of see a glimpse into what it's like to be a comic book artist and writer and a guy who makes indie comics. I just had a video series about me fulfilling my last campaign and all the headaches that went into that. With like, I got all of issue 2 handed to me, misprinted with issue 1 on the inside.
Wow.
And it was a nightmare. Like the logistics of like being like, oh my god, what am I gonna do? It was crazy. So if that's the type of thing you're interested, you can check out my YouTube, which is youtube.com / Robson Inc. You can find Outbreaks on Kickstarter. If you go to any of my social media, I'm sure I'm blasting it everywhere. So the pre-launch page is live now, but by the time you're hearing this, the campaign will be live. So I hope to see you there. And then if you want to get help learning to be a better artist, a better comic book artist, then you can find me on Patreon, and hopefully I can help you out there. So that's pretty much everything. Oh, and I co-host my own podcast called Batman the Animated Series Podcast with my brother, where we review Batman the Animated Series. That's why my background's Arkham Asylum. And we also interview voice actors from the show, directors, producers, and writers. So that's a really fun thing that we do. So check that out.
Oh man, how did I not know this existed?
That's because I'm bad at advertising it. My brother runs it, like, but no, he does. He edits really funny videos together on social media of us kind of like dubbing over Batman the Animated Series. It's really funny and fun. So yeah, check that out. That's a fun show.
Awesome. Oh, I just found it on iTunes. Alex and Will Robson. All right.
Yep,
Followed.
awesome. Well, I enjoy it because it's a bunch of silly shenanigans in that show. That's for sure.
I'm excited about it. But anyway, Will, thank you so much for taking time to do this. Thanks for being flexible with the time zones.
Thank you so much, and thank you to everyone like you who makes great content for people to see the behind the scenes of people making comics. It's awesome.
No problem at all. So again, the campaign is live now. Links are in the show notes and in the description of this video on YouTube. Go back the campaign, get all your ephemera, get your pins, get your trading cards, get that Tony Moore cover, because
That's right.
why not? And I'm looking forward to seeing more from Outbreaks. But for all of you listening, thank you so much. I'll see you in another one soon. Till then, stay safe, stay awesome, and read something dope today. Peace.